Greetings, superior beings. Greetings, supreme being. Welcome to Try Something.Vegetarian on YouTube. We are all the human race. Our common enemy is death. Universal peace. Now, this is the broadcast World War III. World War III 2019 predicted by Nostradamus by Radiological Waterfilter Storable Food. Hey y'all. So it just occurred to me that basically there are many other indicators that are pointing in the direction of a third Jesuit World War. Like that red cow, a red genetic cow born in Israel, which according to the rabbis and Hebrew scholars announces the coming of the Messiah, but after a global Armageddon has taken place, the end of the world basically, a nuclear Armageddon or scalar world war. And what did I see? I found this picture of Nostradamus online, this one, and I see a compass basically, but no square. Anyway, so I thought, let's check if Nostradamus was a Freemason. More about the explosives that demolished the WTC in my previous broadcast. You can see these explosives. So he was a Freemason, and that means, at least according to these videos, I will get to the intro in a sec. For example, this video, Freemason Nostradamus announces NWO New World Order. Uploaded by Central Intelligence Agency. Doubt if that's official, of course. And that means that it could be an agenda, that this is just not a prediction, but an agenda they're following. A Third Temple World War. So what I'm going to cover is this Miracle UK article, prophet who, quote, predicted Hitler in 9/11, unquote, claims World War III will start in 2019. The infamous Nostradamus also predicted the new year would see a widespread rise in terrorism and a devastating earthquake in the US. So let's start with this intro to prevent a world war over Iran sanctions, to prevent a two-state solution world war, preventing beats curing.
The agency has permitted me to emanate the following intelligence to thee: a world war must be prevented by any means necessary. To prevent a world war over Iran sanctions, 1. Trump is advised not to press ahead with what some would consider illegal sanctions. Iran does not have any nuclear weapon and therefore any sanctions are unjustified. 2. Rooney is advised not to press ahead with transporting cancer oil to countries Trump has forbidden Iran to transport oil to as part of legal or illegal sanctions. 3. Trump is advised to have an agreement with Russian President Putin before taking any action. 4. Putin is advised to prevent any type of retaliation if required to prevent World War III. And create universal peace instead. Is it possible a false flag attack on one of their military vessels is planned comparable to the sinking of the Lusitania? The great Houdini made a great mistake, didn't he? The directed energy weapon torturers deserve the death penalty. Use their planned world war against them. Safety, equality, liberty, boycotting, uniting, exposing, protesting. AMA equals Ask Me Anything, American Marketing Association, Make New Silver. If World War III will come to pass, what could trigger it? Will new ISIS attacks be a reason to bomb Iran and take the oil like Trump claimed he would do? Recently a new video of Bakr al-Baghdadi cropped up. All mainstream media outlets all seem to agree that the authenticity of the new ISIS leader video cannot be confirmed. A false flag type of event a la the Gulf of Tonkin incident or the sinking of the Lusitania. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, also known as the USS Maddox incident, was an international confrontation that led to the United States engaging more directly in the Vietnam War. RMS Lusitania was a British ocean liner and briefly the world's largest passenger ship. The ship was sunk on May 7, 1915 by a German U-boat 11 miles, 18 kilometers, off the southern coast of Ireland. The sinking presaged the United States declaration of war on Germany, 1917. Could the 28 EU membership states' rejection of Israeli sovereignty over the Golan and not accepting Trump's proclamation trigger a world war somehow? Watch. All 28 EU membership states reject Israeli sovereignty over the Golan and slam Trump's proclamation. HD streamed, April 9, 2019 at 6:22 p.m. on my YouTube channel, Try Something.Vegetarian. Could a two-state solution world war still erupt? Palestinians, EU, Russia and UN should counter US peace plan. We have a global consensus with us supporting a two-state solution, says Palestinian UN Ambassador Riyad Mansour, Israelim.com. Palestine, EU, Russia, UN must counter US plan. Gulf News 17 hours ago. May 9th 2019 Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pledged in the final stretch of his campaign that he would annex the settlements if he was re-elected. Leaked document claims to reveal Trump's deal of centering New Palestine to be demilitarized, Jerusalem to serve as capital of both states. The document outlines plans for a two-state solution, with a completely demilitarized state of New Palestine, and the Israeli regime's annexation of all colonies in the West Bank, and shared capitals in occupied Jerusalem. Yisrael Hayom said the document was passed last night between Israeli Foreign Ministry officials, but said it was unclear what its source was and how reliable it was. Gulf News is unable to independently verify the authenticity of the document. Netanyahu seeks to name new Golan settlement after Trump. Middle East Monitor April 24, 2019. Alarming. WW3 threat, how the war between America and Iran will start. B-52 bombers sent. Two-state solution equals final solution. The plan to reduce the global population to 500 million with a two-state solution world war, and to impose a satanic Luciferian global government, a Nord Nun, New World Order, Third Reich, which was the plan of the Jesuit and Mason all along. Mac Miller totally destroys Donald Trump on The Nightly Show, HuffPost.com. Responsibility, see no evil hear no eagle, or, no ego, bad, joke, for reasons beyond belief. 5. G. Freemasonry. The letter G in Freemasonry signifies gnosis, Gnostic warrior. Gnosis is the common Greek noun for knowledge, gnosis. F. The term is used in various Hellenistic religions and philosophies. It is best known from Gnosticism, where it signifies a knowledge or insight into humanity's real nature as divine, leading to the deliverance of the divine spark within humanity from the constraints of earthly existence. Could the secret meaning of the G be that the letter G in Freemasonry stands for gay? Who knows who's on top? Freemasonry or Masonry consists of fraternal organizations that trace their origins to the local fraternities of stonemasons, which from the end of the 14th century regulated the qualifications of stonemasons and their interaction with authorities and clients. A fraternity, from Latin frater, brother, whence, brotherhood, or fraternal organization is an organization, society, club or fraternal order traditionally of men associated together for various religious or secular aims. Only men can join, women are discriminated. Gnosis also sounds a lot like noses. More so than like Moses, and also it sounds like, no sis, no sister. Mozart and George Washington were Masons. The G of Freemason agree. Geometry, God and Gnosis are not good enough. According to another theory, the G stands for Guinevere, the secret longing of the fraters. The neural network and synthetic telepathy machine make every IQ test invalid. It's a matter of belief, not science. The IQ test. Problem-solving capabilities do not exist. Theory, I knew he'd corrupt us. A new world order. I meant that like, I order you to replicate Earth, okay? Andrew Anglin of the racist, homophobic and anti-Semitic website Daily Stormer may not be controlled opposition. Asahim Wolfgard might be controlled opposition himself, or he may have misunderstood what Andrew was saying and thought that Andrew wanted to abolish the white race, but he was claiming that he thought that plan is stupid. He was not claiming that he thought that himself. You can still see the video. Andrew Anglin of Daily Stormer is an anti-white Zionist shill. Smile Asahim Wolfgard on YouTube, and the claim may be totally false. Asahim Wolfgard could be a Zionist shill himself or may have misunderstood Andrew Anglin. According to superstring theory, the fifth and sixth dimensions are where the notion of possible worlds arises. In the seventh dimension, you have access to the possible worlds that start with different initial conditions. December 10, 2014. A universe of 10 dimensions, universitytoday.com. No matter how many dimensions exist, there is only one reality, the truth. Most likely groups and secret societies behind the Third World War. 1. The Jesuits that also call themselves the Society of the Perfect and Society of Jesus. A military order posing as a religious order with the prime directive of imposing a global government after reducing the global population to 500 million by creating instead of preventing a nuclear Armageddon. 2. Skull and Bones, aka Brotherhood of Death, synonymous with the Jesuits according to some. Current bonesman, John Kerry, 68th United States Secretary of State from 2013 to 2017, Mnuchin, 77th United States Secretary of the Treasury as part of the cabinet of Donald Trump. 3. Bilderberg. 4. Committee of 300, the subversive body of the Club of Rome. 5. Knights of Malta. Trump says John Kerry should be prosecuted for talking with Iran. He's talking to Iran and has many meetings and many phone calls, and he's telling them what to do, Trump said at the White House. And that is a total violation of the Logan Act. Only 2 people have ever been charged under the Logan Act, which was passed in 1799 and forbids private citizens from unauthorized negotiating with foreign governments. Here's a visual guide to the 10 dimensions of reality. Ultraculture.org. Trump's foolish Iran policy only makes war more likely. Iran's rulers face impossible choices as a result of unrelenting U.S. hostility.
Could it be that people in the past forgot about the Logan Act?
Which has one name. Regime change. TheGuardian.com. Thursday, May 9, 2019. Iran threatens more uranium enrichment if no new nuke deal. Associated Press, May 8, 2019. Neo-Nazi WHO calls for slaughter of Jewish children is of Jewish descent. His mom says a reclusive neo-Nazi who co-runs the white supremacist Daily Stormer website, and recently said Jewish children deserve to die, has Jewish relatives on both sides of his family. His mother told Newsweek. Andrew Weaverenheimer, who handles the technical side of Stormer alongside editor Andrew Anglin, said on a podcast last month that Jews were to blame for the website's loss of its .com address after a white man allegedly killed peaceful protester Heather Heyer in Charlottesville, Virginia, in August. Subsequently, the site has been forced to jump around the internet. Newsweek.com, January 3, 2018. Andrew Anglin was and may still be vegan. Do not trust carnivore eaters. On average, they may be more aggressive and inhumane than vegetarians and vegans. You could argue it's best to stay away from meat eaters, some of which are cannibals. Make sure you take sufficient amounts of vitamin B12, vitamin spray, and foods that contain most B12, preferred to hydrolyzed tablets. Only then it is healthiest to be vegan and vegetarian. In general, preferred to is still about twice as common as preferred over in English literature. JacobMarian.com.
So these Jesuits also see themselves as wolves, basically. Alex Jones also talked about sheeple, that's the dehumanization part of the 10 phases of genocide. Extermination of large groups of people. Can also be by the government, democide. And it has 10 phases that supersede it, basically. So that's worth studying as well. I did a broadcast about it in my past, but it's not on this channel. So yeah, I wanted to show the picture of Saint Ignatius of Loyola, the witch's cauldron, a cooking pot with wolves dancing around it, basically. But I guess you get the picture. Alex and the Jesuits, its Jesuit bodies are the wolves and you all are the sheeple to them. So they are fake resistance to round up real resistance, also called control the position. And online you can study how you can recognize control the position if you want to be part of a real resistance and not round it up.
U.S. crafting surrender document not a peace plan. Palestine FM Riyadh al-Maliki slams U.S.'s Middle East peace negotiators' conditions for surrender in the name of peace plan. Al Jazeera Middle. 4 hours ago, I denounce all attacks on innocent civilians. Do it to real murderers, people whose policies have killed millions, not to innocent civilians. Executing murderers is honorable, murdering innocent civilians is a despicable act. One denounce in the strongest terms. Also, do not engage in civil disobedience, do not lower yourself to their level, the level of a criminal. Donbass, a historical, cultural, and economic region in eastern Ukraine and southwestern Russia, de facto placebo people, shekels make shekels. Owen Benjamin quote, Operation Mindbender/Spellbinder, hypno-slave killers, sleeper killers, all people knowing, words, disappear, into the silence. Prophet who predicted Hitler in 9/11 claims World War III will start in 2019 in his 1555 book Les Prophéties. French seer Nostradamus tipped 2019 to be the beginning of an apocalyptic war that would span nearly 3 decades. The infamous Nostradamus also predicted the new year would see a widespread rise in terrorism and a devastating earthquake in the US. Mirror.co.uk. Freemason Nostradamus announces NWO New World Order and the White House of Pharaoh Central Intelligence Agency. YouTube, December 15, 2017. Nostradamus, a Jewish Masonic psyop from the 1970s. Andy Lewis. YouTube, November 26, 2016.
I'm guessing that I had the wrong picture show on. So it should be in this picture show, I guess. It must be somewhere. The witch's cauldron with the wolves. It's called a coat of arms, basically. What if Mossad and CIA funded WikiLeaks? Counterintelligence, misinformation, disinformation, question every source of information. But this means it's wonderful, we can now hop to the article. So let's do this.
Prophet who predicted Hitler in 9/11 claims World War III will start in 2019. The infamous Nostradamus also predicted the new year would see a widespread rise in terrorism and a devastating earthquake in the U.S. Share by Luke Kenton. 540, 15 Dec 2018 updated 09:27, 15 Dec 2018 news. Click to play now. Any optimistic belief that next year might be better than the last may have to be put on hold for a little while, according to one prophet, or for 27 years, at least. According to the infamous futurecaster Nostradamus, who boasts an incredible record of predicting the rise of Hitler in the 9/11 attacks, 2019 is set to be a resounding misery across the globe. And it's not likely to get better until at least 2046 if he's proven to be right. In his 1555 book Les Prophéties, French seer Nostradamus tipped 2019 to be the beginning of an apocalyptic war that would span nearly 3 decades. Nostradamus was a 16th-century physician cum clairvoyant whose poetic predictions continued to baffle and shock people nearly 500 years later. Image, Ulstein built via Getty Images. If he's right, an apocalyptic war could wage for 27 years. Image, Sunday Mirror. Read more why December babies are more special than they realize. According to Science the book, compiled of 942 poetic quatrains that allegedly predict future events, also believes floods will swell across much of Europe, as well as a catastrophic earthquake erupting between California and Vancouver Island, in Canada. Terrorism and religious extremism is also tipped to increase in the Middle East. It isn't all bad though. The poetic clairvoyant did suggest political leaders would come together to battle climate change, as well as scientists developing a medicine that could allow us to live for 200 years. In the text of his book, each four-line block, called a quatrain, attempts to predict an event in the future. He's credited.
Well, on another website, they claim that Nostradamus predicted that the weather weapons will trigger the next ice age.
As prediction a whole host of worldly events, from Henry II's death.
So when you have ionospheric heaters, they're called heaters for a reason, they burn natural gas, etc. And they're punching holes in the Earth's ionosphere. Of course, it's weird if they leave that out of the list of things that cause man-made global warming, you know. It's a scam according to Trump, and he could be right about that one, but I'm against investing $1 trillion in revising the nuclear arsenal of the US over the next decade. So I don't support Trump anymore. And also I'm against a world war, Third Temple World War, I mean sanctions World War, two-state solution World War, maybe their plan revealed in the next month basically by Kushner or something. So I'm for universal peace. I gave these 4 points, and if they keep that, then World War cannot happen. It's impossible.
To the 9/11 attacks, read more how mystic Bubba Vanga cheated death in the freak accident that blinded her at 12. While logic might suggest Nostradamus' claims could apply to almost anything, some of the coded verses do seem oddly specific. In one passage Nostradamus wrote, "The blood of the just will be lacking in London, burned up in the fire of 66. The ancient lady will topple from her high place. Many of the same sect will be killed." On September 2, 1666, a small bakery fire on Pudding Lane in London kick-started a vicious inferno that ravished the city for 3 days. The phrase "blood of the just" is believed to refer to the elimination of millions of flea-carrying rats that spread the Black Death. That deadly plague died out during the Great Fire. Great Fire of London, 1666. The Great Fire of London in 1666 ripped through the city, which was tinder dry after a hot summer. Image, Getty Images. Many also credit the prophet for foreseeing Hitler's rise to power. He wrote, "From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the east." He continued in another verse, "Beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hister. Into a cage of iron will the Great One be drawn." When the child of Germany observes nothing, Adolf Hitler's rise is said to have been foreseen by Nostradamus. Image, Popper photo, Getty Images. Hitler was born to poor parents in 1889 in Western Europe and used public speaking skills to assemble support the Nazi Party after World War I. He also allied with Japan, or the East, in the Second World War. While many believe Hister to be a misspelling, it's also an old name for the Danube River in Austria. Incredibly, Hitler was born just miles from that river. Nostradamus has, however, also bizarrely predicted that humans will develop the ability to speak to animals. And if his prediction that the world would end by 1999 is anything to go by, it's clear he isn't always right. Read more top news stories from Mirror Online. Meghan's dad's ex issues warning.
So there's also a video, Nostradamus 21st Century Prophecies Revealed History channel, which I'm not gonna play because of possible copyright infringement. So that's the whole video for now. Then I can play some music. So at least it's the healing frequency. It sounded a bit too Christmassy for me, but okay. As long as it generates universal peace, heals our DNA, and it's a low frequency, it's okay with me. What a weirdo. See that? Yeah, weird people can be nice as well. Not all of them, perhaps. Well, it's some other picture show. I'm not gonna watch this all the time. So there are some other videos about it on YouTube that you can watch. And people can also read the quadrants online. Which are originally in French. And this one is not really referring to quadrants, but one it does refer to quadrants also, 942. But how do they tie it to 2019, I wonder? Year 2019 is not in the English translation. But we can listen to a part of it. Random. If you believe in such a thing.
To quench the great thirst, the great one of minds will be deprived of his great dignity. Those of Cologne will come to complain so loudly that the great trump will be thrown into the Rhine. 41. The second chief of the realm of Animarch, through those of Frisia and of the British Isle, will spend more than 100,000 marks, exploiting in vain the voyage to Italy. 42. To Ogmios will be left the realm of the great Selin, who will in fact do more. Throughout Italy will he extend his banner, he will be ruled by a prudent deformed one.
The grey trump will be thrown into the Rhine. He's not talking Macron. Well, we'll see what happens. So then there's nothing more that I can cover in this broadcast, is there? I could cover anything. Oh yeah, I was going to check if there's any news on Iran and the US.
Pentagon builds deterrent force against possible Iranian attack. The New York Times. 16 hours ago. Washington, the Pentagon will deploy a Patriot anti-missile battery to the Middle East to shore up defenses against Iranian threats. Part of U.S. sends Patriot missiles, warship to Middle East to deter Iran. Al-Jazeera.com. 8 hours ago. U.S. bolsters its Gulf defenses to counter Iran. International. Wall Street Journal. 17 hours ago. The U.S. is sending another warship and more missiles to the Middle Opinion. CNBC. 18 hours ago. America's billion-dollar fleet can be destroyed with one missile, warns. In-depth. Daily Mail. 2 hours ago. U.S. sending Patriot missile system and another warship to Middle East. International. News.com. 5 hours ago. U.S. sends Patriot missiles, warship to Middle East to deter Iran. USS Arlington carrying Patriot missiles to join USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, currently in the Red Sea. The U.S. government has approved the deployment of a Patriot missile defense battery and another warship to the Middle East amid increasing tensions between the U.S. and Iran. The USS Arlington, which transports Marines, amphibious vehicles, and rotary aircraft, as well as the Patriot missiles, will join the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, which already passed through Egypt's Suez Canal on Thursday, and is currently sailing in the Red Sea, according to CNN. The U.S. says the deployments of military hardware to the region comes in response to heightened Iranian readiness to conduct offensive operations. The Patriot missile system is a defense mechanism against aircraft, drones, cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, and is currently deployed in Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar and United Arab Emirates, UAE. The acting Secretary of Defense has approved the movement of USS Arlington, LPD-24, and a Patriot battery to U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, as part of the command's original request for forces from earlier this week, a Pentagon statement said. USS Arlington is an amphibious transport dock carrying hundreds of Marines. Bebto Matthews/App, manufactured by Raytheon, the Patriot is used by the U.S. and several allied nations. File, EPA. Earlier in the week, a U.S. Air Force bomber task force, including B-52 bombers, also arrived at the U.S. Air Base Al Udeid in Qatar, U.S. Central Command said. The Department of Defense continues to closely monitor the activities of the Iranian regime, their military and proxies, due to operational security. We will not discuss timelines or location of forces. The United States does not seek conflict with Iran, but we are postured and ready to defend U.S. forces and interests in the region, the statement added. The B-52 is a long-range bomber designed and built by Boeing. File, Kim Hong-ji/Reuters. Iran has dismissed the moves as psychological warfare designed to intimidate it. In an advisory posted on Thursday, the U.S. Maritime Administration, MARAD, said that since early May there had been an increased possibility of Iran or its regional proxies taking action against U.S. and partner interests. These included, MARAD said, oil production infrastructure, after Tehran threatened to close the vital Strait of Hormuz choke point in the Arabian Gulf through which about a fifth of oil consumed globally passes. Iran or its proxies could respond by targeting commercial vessels, including oil tankers, or U.S. military vessels in the Red Sea or the Persian Gulf, MARAD said. Reporting indicates heightened Iranian readiness to conduct offensive operations against U.S. forces and interests. Rising tensions between Iran and the U.S. have escalated sharply in recent weeks. The U.S. unilaterally backed out of a 2015 nuclear pact in May 2018, effectively giving countries worldwide a year to stop buying Iranian oil or face U.S. sanctions, which Washington says are aimed at completely choking off Iranian crude exports. Washington last month blacklisted Iran's Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist group. U.S. officials say they have detected indications that Iran could be preparing a military response. Read more. Dangerous game, U.S., Europe and the betrayal of Iran. Speaking on condition of anonymity to Reuters news agency, officials say one of the pieces of intelligence indicated Iran had moved missiles on boats, with giving details of the claim. One of the officials said the particular missile observed was perhaps capable of launching from a small ship. The officials also noted growing concerns about the threat from Iran-backed militia in Iraq, which have long avoided any confrontation with U.S. troops under the shared goal of defeating the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, or ISIS. Rhetoric has grown heated on both sides. Iranian news agency ISNA quoted Ayatollah Tabatabai-Najad in the city of Isfahan as saying, their billion-dollar fleet can be destroyed with one missile. If they attempt any move, they will face dozens of missiles because at that time, government officials won't be in charge to act cautiously, but instead things will be in the hands of our beloved leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he said on Friday. Thousands of Iranians took part in marches on Friday to support the government's decision to reduce limits on its nuclear program. Iran has threatened to go further if other parties to the 2015 deal, Britain, China, France, Germany and Russia, fail to shield it from U.S. sanctions. Iranian TV channels showed protesters marching after Friday prayers in Tehran and said similar marches had been held across Iran. AlJazeera.com. Divide and conquer equals the Jesuit game. Prepare for Change https://prepareforchange.net.
So they're trying to tie that to the flat Earth, of course, control the position, wants to mix the truth that the Apollo moon landings are fake with the lie that the Earth is flat. So there cannot be sound on the moon, yet we see that in NASA's own videos. When the astronaut drops a plate, you can clearly hear it fall, and that's impossible on the moon where there's a vacuum, therefore no air can transport the audio vibrations to the microphone in the helmet of the astronaut. So I'm a conspiracy factist, and we know for a fact that the Apollo moon landings are fake. It's proven beyond any reasonable doubt by NASA's own video, like these explosives we see going off in the documentary 9/11 Let's Roll. Loose Change, 2nd edition. So yeah, divide to conquer, divide to defeat, and problem, reaction, solution. Are the main strategies, basically. A military order posing as a religious order, so religion is part of their psychological warfare. According to sources online, they're satanic homo pedo negro cannibals that want you to turn the other cheek when they torture you to death or others for one reason or another, usually when they're exposed by them. And they try to play their enemies out against each other. That's divide to conquer. So they're trying to play you out against me and against the others that expose controlled opposition and that are forming real resistance because they don't want to die in a world war, and they don't want a world war. They want civilization to be uplifted, to become a perfect society rather than a society of the perfect. And they're not gonna let anybody hold them down. They know death is not an option. So first they cause the problem, and then they make use of the reaction. For example, first they demolish the WTC, and the reaction is used to promote the war of terror. So they pretend it's a war on terror, but it's a satanic inversion. It's a war of terror. For example, the depleted uranium war crime and illegal wars in the Middle East. So create the initial problem, manage the public reaction, sell the pre-planned solution, research the Hegelian dialectic. The time to awaken is now. So we should be doing the opposite. Create the solution. Use the reaction, basically. And sell the pre-planned problem. Anyway. It reminds me of the other thing. 4 phases of ideological subversion active measures, as covered by Yuri Bezmenov. And we should turn that around, but this, well, they should come up with solutions to current problems, not create problems, of course. They are supposed to protect and serve the tax-paying citizens, not to reduce the global population and tyrannize the good people that do something about it or that expose them with remote torture weapons. So according to Citizens Action Network, and I think they might be right, the Jesuits control intelligence agencies which control the synthetic telepathy machine and remote torture weapons, and all intelligence agencies are Masonic, according to Citizens Action Network on Facebook. And they cannot disprove it to me, so if anybody can with some proof, some evidence, then please let me know in the comments, so I can enlighten you all with the truth instead of a bloody lie. Never forget what this tyrant said to conquer a nation: first disarm its citizens. Adolf Hitler. Hitler took the guns, Stalin took the guns, Mao took the guns. So that's against the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms to defend ourselves or the people against a tyrannical government. There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I intend to expose this plot. President John F. Kennedy, 7 days before his assassination. And he talked about these secret societies. And of course there needs to be an investigation into these secret societies, such as Knights Templar, which are associated with both Brenton Tarrant and Breivik, or did these denounce cowardly attacks on innocent civilians, unarmed civilians. And if there's a world war, then they're not going to be safe without shelter, if they're in a big city, or radiological water filter, if any of these nukes would reach their targets. But it could also be a sort of Judgment Day scenario where people are selectively erased by the neural network that has been monitoring them, and perhaps their idea to reduce the global population is just to test who would go along with that, so that they can all be taken care of on Judgment Day. Perhaps it's really smart. We could watch part of this video. Freemason Nostradamus announces NWO, New World Order, and the White House of Pharaoh.
So you all remember I visited the house of Nostradamus, Michel de Nostradamus. So his book is from 1555, a lot of fives, and I haven't read it all, just a couple of things. So in the first book, it's in Old French here. This is the first book. This is the rest. Is quite there are 4 parts. The problem is I don't have a house. I don't really have a place to to read it all. So in the first book, verse 3, here we got it. He talks about the whites, les blancs et les rouges. Here it says, les blancs et les rouges. So he says, I'll read it for you. La République, par gens nouveaux vexés, leurs blancs et rouges jugeront à l'envers. So that means the Republic of new of new people who are really set up, who are angry, vexés, it says, the new ones. Les blancs et rouges jugeront à l'envers.
Vexé also reminds me of vexed. So yeah, there's a list of pandemics caused by vaccinations online. You can also find it via my website, universalpeace.jimdo.com. List of pandemics caused by vaccinations.
The whites and the red, they judge the other way around. So that means the old world order became the new world order. You know, the second, third and fourth sons, which are actually the whites, which is the new world order, is the white, like the White House, it's Upper Egypt. And the red ones is the original kingdom of the pharaohs. So ils jugeront, it's old French, they judge à l'envers. It's going to be the other way around, the ones who are ruling. Now, and so here it says that he talks about the new world order. There's absolutely. I haven't read the rest yet, but my friend Hannibal of the picture, he showed me this here. Yeah.
He talks about a republic, but a new world order, global government. My French isn't that good. No, I don't see anything about the world in there.
Yeah, he talks about the new world order. Absolutely. So in fact, he talks here about the revolution, and here it says, par l'univers sera fait un monarque, qu'en paix et vie ne sera longuement. Lors se perdra la piscature barque, sera régie en plus grand détriment. Well, he talks about the king, you know, he's le détriment, le monarque, who's gonna lose his head. He talks about the new world order. So this guy is one of them. He's a pharaoh. He's part of the second, third, fourth sons aristocracy. This is a Freemason talking here. I don't really.
It is possible Trump will be the last president, 2 books by Ingersoll Lockwood, 1900, or The Last President and Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, published in 1893. The uncomfortable truth is so much better than their comfortable lies. It's still illegal to block a working cure from the public! The gov is criminal! Legalize it.
Think he's doing like prophecies. He's well, the prophecy is that the second, third and fourth sons, they're gonna do the revolution. They want to drop the first son and chop his head off, and put in place the new world order. And he says it here. This is a very highly initiated guy. Well, he was a doctor. This is a Freemason, I have no doubt. And he's not doing any prophecies at all. He knows what's going to happen. The second, third and fourth sons of the aristocracy, they are in the majority. There are very, very, very many. It's just a matter of time. Just like the Jacques de Molay, when he was burned, he said, well, to the Pope, and he said to the King, well, before the year is over, you're all going to die. Well, they know they are in the majority. This is not a prophecy. Yeah. So, Freemason stuff. And he talks about the Red and the White House. A very highly initiated figure, Nostradamus.
Well, I enjoyed the video anyway. Uploaded by the Central Intelligence Agency. Under 2 likes, 2 dislikes, going to the YouTube counter, 2,570 views.
Bolton and the Troika of Tyranny, Loblog, April 26, 2019. John Bolton's Dream World, Slate Magazine, May 8, 2019. Bolton and the Troika of Tyranny, April 26, 2019. John Pfeffer, 4 comments. Logalog.com. If you're in the market for a Troika of Tyranny, Donald Trump, John Bolton, and Mike Pompeo certainly fit the bill. Or, if you'd rather focus on countries not individuals, you might single out Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Egypt as the 3 most likely candidates. Perhaps, if you're in a confessional mood, how about Christian fundamentalism, Jewish extremism, and Salafist Wahhabism? A Troika, for those who haven't read any 19th century Russian novels recently, is a carriage drawn by 3 horses. So, the ultimate Troika of Tyranny, from the point of view of the planet as a whole, would feature the 3 horsemen of the ongoing apocalypse: climate change, nuclear proliferation, and global pandemic. But no, that's not what National Security Advisor John Bolton had in mind when he talked last week of a Troika of Tyranny. In a rehash of a speech he gave in November in Miami, Bolton declared last week that the Troika of Tyranny, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, is beginning to crumble. Further laying on the insults, Bolton called Cuba's Miguel Diaz-Canel, Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, and Nicaragua's Daniel Ortega the 3 stooges of socialism. Ever since George W. Bush included Iraq, Iran, and North Korea in an axis of evil, speechmakers have been in search of the holy grail of geopolitical matchmaking. For instance, Condoleezza Rice's outposts of tyranny, Bush's phrase, which proved so enduring, was an extraordinarily flawed piece of work. The 3 countries who grouped together had little to no relationship at the time. Iraq and Iran had fought a nearly decade-long war that left them bitter regional rivals. North Korea, which has no ideological affinity to either country, was probably included in the list so that it didn't appear anti-Islamic. This particular axis didn't have a leg to stand on. Bolton's more alliterative phrase suffers from the same conceptual problems. Worse, it revives an anti-communist crusade that could easily expand to include North Korea, China, and any left-leaning country. New Zealand? That makes the mistake of looking at Bolton funny. A new Monroe doctrine, Trump understands the world in terms of three types of leaders. There are the autocrats he likes, there are the autocrats he doesn't like, and then there are all the rest, the Democrats he doesn't respect. Cuban leader Miguel Díaz-Canel is one of those autocrats that Trump doesn't like. It's not Díaz-Canel's ideology that rubs the American president the wrong way. After all, Trump has no problem praising China's Xi Jinping or falling in love with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Rather, Cuba made the unpardonable error of negotiating a détente with Trump's predecessor, Barack Obama. So, by the logic of the Trump administration, Cuba is guilty by association. Over the last 2+ years, Trump has rolled back the elements of the agreements that the Obama administration negotiated with Cuba that culminated in diplomatic recognition in July 2015. The Trump administration has restricted travel to the country, the amount of money that Cubans in America can remit to their families back home, and the deals that U.S. businesses can negotiate with Cuban counterparts. Also, the administration will now allow U.S. entities to file lawsuits against foreign companies operating on property appropriated by the state after the 1959 revolution. The Obama policy was all about nudging Cuba in a particular direction. More people-to-people contact would increase the free flow of information. More business deals would encourage the growth of market activities. Meanwhile, unrestricted remittances would help Cubans deal with the myriad difficulties of everyday life. The Trump administration isn't interested in nudging Cuba in a particular direction. Its punitive measures are designed to encourage regime change, pure and simple. The decision to allow lawsuits to go forward is aimed at scaring off European investors in particular who've been operating in Cuba despite decades of U.S. sanctions and embargo. In response, Spain wants the EU to challenge the new U.S. policy at the World Trade Organization. Bolton never liked Cuba. When he was Undersecretary of State for Arms Control in the George W. Bush administration, Bolton accused the country of making biological weapons. This accusation came only 2 months after Bush had inaugurated the Axis of Evil, and Bolton was eager to shoehorn Cuba into the new group, but his efforts to designate the Caribbean island a terrorist threat, and prepare the ground for yet another U.S. invasion, foundered when a congressional investigation turned up no evidence of a biological weapons program in the country. Now Bolton is excited to have a second chance to group Cuba with 2 other countries that have fallen afoul of the United States, Venezuela and Nicaragua. Like the original members of the Axis of Evil, they don't have much in common with one another. Cuba is avowedly Marxist in orientation, with a third world agrarian spin. Venezuela, on the other hand, is a corrupt petro-state led by a leader who calls himself socialist but is really just a klutzy kleptocrat. Then there's Daniel Ortega, who was once a socialist revolutionary but has transformed himself into a Catholic dictator along the lines of Francisco Franco. None of these countries poses even the remotest threat to the United States. They have dismal human rights records, but that hasn't been a concern for the Trump administration anywhere else in the world. So, why is Bolton bothering to waste his rhetorical flourishes on the trio? The National Security Advisor claims that Cuba is propping up Maduro. He hints that Ortega's days are numbered. Is Bolton campaigning to revive what had once been the traditional U.S. approach to Latin America: invasion, occupation, regime change? After all, his most recent Troika of Tyranny speech was timed to coincide with the anniversary of the failed Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba on April 17, 1961, and the audience for his speech was similarly chosen with care, the Bay of Pigs Veterans Association. When it comes to Bolton, war is always a possibility pretty much anywhere in the world, but with the Trump administration focusing most of its wrath against Iran, the Troika of Tyranny speech is probably not the opening salvo of a new, hyper-militarist Monroe Doctrine. Bolton likely has a longer game plan in mind, expanding the Troika. You can almost see the lips beneath the walrus mustache burst in displeasure when Donald Trump shakes hands with Xi Jinping, murmurs sweet nothings to Kim Jong-un, and has quiet confabs with Vladimir Putin. John Bolton has never concealed his profound antipathy to the current government in North Korea. He wants to rewrite the One China policy and is willing to use military force against Beijing as part of that effort. As for Russia, Bolton believes that Putin is a liar and Moscow represents a serious long-term strategic threat to the United States. This, then, is the shadow troika of tyranny that John Bolton would roll out in a speech if only Donald Trump's personal predilections didn't get in the way. But that isn't stopping the National Security Advisor from carefully preparing the ground to do just that as soon as Trump gets frustrated with Kim, Xi, and or Putin. Toward that end, Bolton carefully chose troika for his phrase, a Russian word that can later be repurposed to suggest that Moscow is in fact at the root of these problems. And Bolton is hammering away at the socialist-communist nature of the three Latin American countries, which will prove enormously useful later on when expanding the troika to include North Korea and China. In the end, Bolton is after nothing short of a new Cold War. Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua are small countries with no desire or means to attack the United States, North Korea with its nuclear weapons, China with the world's second-largest military, and Russia with its geopolitical ambitions, on the other hand, are much worthier adversaries. Prolonged conflict with these three will keep militarists like Bolton in business for decades. As importantly, Bolton can use these larger confrontations to unravel all international institutions, all forms of international cooperation, in fact anything that smacks of an international community, with all eyes focused these days on Trump and his myriad crimes. John Bolton's speeches are a reminder that even worse options are waiting in the wings.
So then we can go back to the original Miracle UK article in his 1555 book, Le Prophétie, I think. French seer Nostradamus tipped 2019 to be the big beginning of an apocalyptic war that would span nearly 3 decades, so don't let it happen. So one key thing is an agreement between the American president and the Russian president, an agreement So I advised Trump not to press ahead with what some would consider illegal sanctions because they can't show Iran's nuclear weapon. They have no nuclear weapon. There are many that disagree with the way Trump is handling it, and they consider it illegal sanctions. Sanctioning Iranian people for something they haven't done. They haven't created a nuclear weapon, and they claim not to be pursuing one, so what evidence is there, if any? Rouhani is advised not to press ahead with transporting cancer oil to countries Trump has forbidden Iran to transport oil to as part of legal or legal sanctions. There are other countries they export oil to, and it would be an economic pressure, but it wouldn't be the end of Iran or the Iranian people if they'd comply with Trump's illegal sanction plan, and if that can prevent a world war. If there's no other way to prevent it, then I'm for it, basically. 3. Trump is advised to have an agreement, yeah, I already said that, and Putin is advised to prevent any type of retaliation. If required to prevent World War III, the US invested more than all the other countries combined in the bloody war machine. And nobody would win, there would be mutually assured destruction, etc. with these scalar weapons that have made nuclear weapons obsolete. So preventing beats curing, and everybody can think, they can protest, they can boycott, make songs, do things for universal peace. Make your own plan. Perhaps a list of things you like. So I might make some other picture shows. The text is quite boring, I guess. And a picture show is nicer. So, thank you all for watching. Please remember to share important stuff on your timeline. I'm not getting enough feedback from you all. If you don't like it, please let me know in the comments why or what it is you don't like about my broadcast, and I can shave it next time so it's more to your liking and hopefully the liking of the YouTube audience as a whole. Alright, so thank you for watching. Tune in next time and do stuff for universal peace. Try something vegetarian or vegan health food.